Hey, what's up, friends? And welcome to Echoes of Greatness, where the voices of the past still have something to say. I'm your host, Matt Reeves, and this isn't your boring history class. This is where we slow down and listen, really listen, to the speeches that shaped our world. The words that made people rise up, break down, march forward, or just sit there in awe. Here's the deal. Some of the greatest minds in history left us a blueprint through their speeches, and today we're going to dust those words off, breathe life back into them, and let them speak to us like they were meant to. No fluff, no lectures, just truth, power, and legacy. So whether you're on your commute, in the gym, or just need a little reminder that words can move mountains, you're in the right place. Let's kick things off with a speech so iconic, it's carved into the soul of American memory. It's short, it's haunting, and it says more in 2 minutes than most of us say in a lifetime. This is the Gettysburg Address. Now, this wasn't some grand ceremony with fireworks and applause. It was a rainy November day, a battlefield still raw with the memory of blood and sacrifice. Lincoln wasn't even the main speaker. Most people didn't even catch what he said at the time, but oh, how wrong they were. With less than 300 words, he reframed the entire Civil War. He reminded us what America was supposed to stand for and what was truly worth dying for. Here it is in full, the Gettysburg Address, delivered by President Abraham Lincoln. Well, at least how I envision him sounding.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
All right, that was heavy. But if you thought that was Lincoln at his most powerful, buckle up, because the next speech might just be his deepest. Fast forward to March 1865. The Civil War is winding down, the country's torn to shreds, and Lincoln's been reelected. Now, most leaders in that position would gloat, or at least try to rally the troops. But not Lincoln. Instead, he steps up to the podium and delivers something closer to a sermon. Humble, soul-searching, almost mournful. This wasn't about victory. It was about healing and confronting the moral cost of what had been done. Let's hear it. The second inaugural address.
Fellow countrymen, at this second appearing to take the oath of the presidential office, there is less occasion for an extended address than there was at the first. Then a statement somewhat in detail of a course to be pursued seemed fitting and proper. Now, at the expiration of 4 years, during which public declarations have been constantly called forth on every point and phase of the great contest, which still absorbs the attention and engrosses the energies of the nation, little that is new could be presented. The progress of our arms, upon which all else chiefly depends, is as well known to the public as to myself, and it is, I trust, reasonably satisfactory and encouraging to all. With high hope for the future, No prediction in regard to it is ventured. On the occasion corresponding to this 4 years ago, all thoughts were anxiously directed to an impending civil war. All dreaded it, all sought to avert it. While the inaugural address was being delivered from this place, devoted altogether to saving the Union without war, insurgent agents were in the city seeking to destroy it without war, seeking to dissolve the Union and divide effects by negotiation. Both parties deprecated war, but one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive, and the other would accept war rather than let it perish. And the war came. 1/8 of the whole population were colored slaves, not distributed generally over the Union, but localized in the southern part of it. These slaves constituted a peculiar and powerful interest. All knew that this interest was somehow the cause of the war. To strengthen, perpetuate, and extend this interest was the object for which the insurgents would rend the Union even by war, while the government claimed no right to do more than to restrict the territorial enlargement of it. Neither party expected for the war the magnitude or the duration which it has already attained. Neither anticipated that the cause of the conflict might cease with, or even before the conflict itself should cease. Each looked for an easier triumph and a result less fundamental and astounding. Both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any men should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces, but let us judge not, that we be not judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. If we shall suppose that American slavery is one of those offenses which, in the providence of God, must needs come, but which, having continued through his appointed time, he now wills to remove, and that he gives to both North and South this terrible war as the woe due to those by whom the offense came, shall we discern therein any departure from those divine attributes which the believers in a living God always ascribe to him? Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet if God wills that it continue until all the wealth piled by the bondsman's 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations.
Now let's rewind the clock. Back before the war, before the presidency, before the beard even, in 1858, Abraham Lincoln was just a lawyer from Illinois running for Senate. And this is where he threw down the gauntlet. He stepped up and basically said, America can't stay split like this. It's going to break. We need to choose. It was bold, controversial, and political suicide in some eyes. But it also showed us exactly who Lincoln was, a man who'd rather speak hard truth than play it safe. This one's called the House Divided Speech, and it's just as fiery today as it was then.
Mr. President and gentlemen of the convention, if we could first know where we are and whither we are tending, we could then better judge what to do and how to do it. We are now far into the 5th year since a policy was initiated with the avowed object and confident promise of putting an end to slavery agitation. Under the operation of that policy, that agitation has not only not ceased, but has constantly augmented. In my opinion, it will not cease until a crisis shall have been reached and passed. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure, permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall. But I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. Either the opponents of slavery will arrest the further spread of it, or its advocates will push it forward till it shall become lawful in all the states, old as well as new, north as well as south. Have we no tendency to the latter condition? Let anyone who doubts carefully contemplate that now almost complete legal combination, piece of machinery, so to speak, compounded of the Nebraska Doctrine and the Dred Scott decision. Let him consider not only what work the machinery is adapted to do and how well adapted, but also let him study the history of its construction and trace, if he can, or rather if he will, its source of power, each and all of its parts, and see if he can discover any design or coincidence. I do not underestimate the difficulty of the task before us, but I am hopeful and determined. We shall not fail. If we stand firm, we shall not fail. The result is not doubtful. We shall not fail. If we stand firm, we shall not fail. Wise counsels may accelerate or mistakes delay it, but sooner or later, the victory is sure to come.
All right, take a breath. That's a wrap for today's episode of Echoes of Greatness. I don't know about you, but every time I sit with these words, I feel it. The weight, the truth, the courage it takes to speak when it matters most. And man, we need more of that today. If this moved you, even just a little, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. This isn't just about history, it's about legacy. And the more people we bring into this space, the more those echoes keep going. I'm Matt Reeves, and until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and above all, stay grounded in greatness.